There we go.
Yeah. Well, welcome everybody to this session on getting the best from your appraisal. My name's Christine Edge, and I have had a career of 30 years in the IT industry. I have worked my way up from being a programmer, which I wasn't very good at, to being a program manager, project manager, program manager. I've been a PMO manager, and I've been an IT director. My favourite is program manager. I love being between the business and the techies doing the delivery. And I've worked in policing and in retail. So that's me. I've got lots of experience from a point of being project manager, program manager, and IT director. And what I'm hoping to do today is just share my experience with you of those management positions, but also as being a mentor and being a coach around a lot of the things that I've heard, how I've helped people, and hopefully I sharing some of that will help you as well. So I'll start my presentation, and there we go. Hopefully you can you all see my presentation now?
Yep.
Brilliant. Okay, so that's me. So first of all, what I'd love to do is, I know a lot of people either dread or get frustrated with appraisals, and the first 5, they're examples of what I've heard over my many years in the IT career. Don't feel that they work for me. I just see them as a tick box or a paper exercise. The objectives don't change over the year, so it's a waste of time. You don't think they're done very fairly, and well, it's just about the bonus. And you might have other reasons, but what I'm curious about is, why are you here? What have you heard? And it would be wonderful if you could put into chat just your views, one of any number of those, that 1 to 5s, or if you've got a different reason, then just put a 6 in and give me your reason, and then we're collecting what's there. And Susan, this is perhaps where you can help me, because I don't think I can see chat. So just let us know what the views are of everybody else. I'll just give you a minute to just have a little think about that and see what's right for you.
Oh, some people are typing. Yeah, I mean, while we're doing that, I mean, I think for me, it was sort of the fear that somebody was going to come up with some feedback that was going to be completely unexpected.
Yeah. Are we doing any themes on the numbers?
3 people are typing. Yes, so Danielle saying, yeah, they don't decide a bonus or pay rise in my company, which can be demotivating. And from a manager's perspective, if people are bought into personal development, great, but if they aren't, they can have the opposite effect.
Yes, there's definitely advantages and disadvantages around bonuses being linked, yes.
And I think, yeah, Becky's saying that work well currently, but in different organisations, they're just a paper exercise.
So I work in the organisation that Danny works in, and when I was on the grad scheme here, your annual review was linked to a pay rise, and I found that very much more motivational, and interestingly, because there was that defined criteria set out by the company, not just by your manager, it was more similar to OKR style. So it was linked back to how are you influencing others and how are you having a bigger impact on the team. It wasn't just like, have you hit your billing target or whatever. So I preferred that.
So yeah, Gabrielle's saying not having a real guideline at my company and for my team, and it's almost a tick box exercise. And doesn't always link to merit changes. And Becky's saying, particularly if you or a team want to progress, documenting everything can help.
Absolutely, it can. So what we're getting, just a small group here, and we're seeing that the variances and the experiences can be quite different. So yeah, it's always an interesting challenge. So let's just have a look. So what I've got first for you, if you're thinking it more as an individual, is more some questions here for you to really think about. The 3 easy questions, but if you really think deeply, maybe the answers just need a bit of thinking about. So first of all, ownership. Do you know actually what you want out of that appraisal? Or are you just letting it happen to you? Are you really clear what you're going in? And I'm not talking about the grade that you come out with. I'm talking about what you want as part of that great conversation is what it should be. And you know, it could be lots of different things. And if you haven't done that thinking about, you're looking for a new opportunity, you're looking for clarity of feedback, you're looking for a training course, you're looking for whatever, you're just looking for a great conversation. If you're not really clear, then you might end up then being a little disappointed around or relief that it's all over with. The next one, scope. Are you focusing on your current job, but you've forgotten about your career? Now, this is one that comes up an awful lot when I'm coaching, in that a lot of people are really focusing on doing a great job in their current job and looking at their performance, thinking that working hard is enough, that people will notice, but they're not really thinking about what that next step is and how to link that into the appraisal. And particularly if it's about a new opportunity. Those that are the perfectionists, the work hard people, those that perhaps are lacking a little bit in confidence, they tend to be the people that do that. So as an individual, raising your awareness if you're doing that and thinking about how you might behave differently might be useful. But also as a manager, since there's a lot of you in managers here, think about the personalities of the people that are in your team, and have you got anybody that perhaps might be like that, where you might need to prompt and ask them a question about what next, to really think about the opportunities you might want to be able to give them. And the next one, priority. Do you know what to work on to get the biggest return for your performance for you? Again, that is something that's come up a number of times when I've been coaching, that they know they want to work on something, but they really don't know what it is that's going to help them. And a lot of that is based on limited feedback. So, but what I've got is a little bit of an assessment tool later that might be able to help on around some of that stuff. So next, what I've got here is a lot of the reasons, excuses, issues that people might come to me as a coach to ask for help. So just going through them all, they're not getting any feedback. And these are the less confident ones, where actually they're not actually asking. And they're in a little bit of a panic when it gets to appraisal time, because they haven't got the evidence, they haven't got the information. And so they're scrambling around. They might ask questions, they might not ask questions, but very much encouraging everybody to think about asking for timely feedback, and encouraging those in your team to be able to do that. It seems obvious, but an awful lot of people don't do it. Really encourage them to ask those open questions, not "so how did I do? Was it good? Yes or no?" It's not really going to help them get the information that they want. And perhaps encourage them that if, again, they're lacking in confidence and they're trying to do it solely by email, perhaps thinking about different approaches for different people, thinking about personalities, and thinking about maybe for some people it's inviting them for a coffee and just having an informal chat, but trying to encourage in different ways of being able to get that feedback if that's something that they're lacking is really step number one. Step number two is they're getting feedback, but it's very generic and therefore not really helping them to home in on what it is that they need to help with. And often some people can be a little demotivated, shall we say, if the feedback is negative. And it's about reminding people that actually that's where the source is, that's where the help is, that's the thing that is going to really help them. So it's far more helpful to get that negative feedback than to get that, oh, you're really great, you're good at this. Because where do you go with that? It's there's nothing there to say, okay, what do I need to work on? So what I tend to do with this one is encourage people to be curious and ask more questions. So what specifically is it that you liked when I did that presentation? What specifically was it that didn't work when I ran that meeting for you? To try and just drill down and ask. So that's a really great opening for a question to try and just drill down and get to some feedback that is more helpful. And also remembering that feedback is a gift, but you do not have to take it. So asking lots of people and trying to more go with the trends rather than beat yourself up about one bit of feedback that is perhaps an anomaly to others. Next one, I can't remember just the number of times I've heard this. My boss is dead busy. They haven't got time. They keep cancelling my one-to-ones. I don't get to talk to them. And this is perhaps more rather than the appraisal itself, it's more the leading up and not getting the information. So this is more about ownership. This is more about encouraging your team members or taking the behavior on yourself about how do you best help your boss? How do you organize it? How do you take control of your own development, but make it easy for them and planning things in advance, thinking about what you want on the agenda, thinking about what is really important to talk about rather than just let it happen. It's amazing how many people just think, oh, right, that's for my boss to organise, isn't it? Not me. And when they take control, it really makes a difference to them. And then the other one is this, don't know what area to develop in. So really trying to get that variety of feedback from people. And this is perhaps where a coach or a mentor could really help to ask those questions to really help you to dig down and really think about the next steps and help you to stay focused around what you're doing. By all means, anybody, if you want to put any questions or comments in, and Susan can pick up, and we can stop and chat if you need to. But I'll just keep going unless Susan says, right, we've got a question. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go on to the skills assessment. So 4 steps. And this is a standard coaching tool that is really helpful and can easily be done by everybody. And hopefully from what you all said, this might be something that could help you quite a bit. So first of all, what I get people to do is really think about the most important skills for you to be great at your job. What I tend to do is get them to just write down as many skills as they can think of, whether that be the technical skill for that particular job or whether that be the soft skills that are also important. So hopefully what they end up with is 10 to 20 skills, and you find that people very quickly slow down after they've got the obvious ones out. And then get them to try and prioritize, link together, but get to the 8 most important skills to be great in that role. Then I get them to rate themselves on their own view of their competency for those 8 skills, where 0 is absolutely rubbish and 10 is absolutely brilliant. So remember that this is something that you could do as an individual, but it's also something that you can do as a manager with your team members. What people tend to do in this is we tend to have quite a range of skills. If somebody's been in the job for quite a while, then they'll have quite high skills. Most people have some high ones and some low ones. But what you're doing then is focusing in on the 1 or 2 lowest scores and really looking to have a conversation around those, the reason why that person scored themselves at that level. And maybe a great question is, what would it take for you to score yourself 2 or 3 points higher? And then that helps to open up some of the options of what they might do in order to be able to improve. And then it's about picking the best options to work on. So by doing this, what they've done is really drilled down into the thing that is going to give them that biggest return. Now, clearly this skills assessment is a moment in time thing. So it's useful to do it on a regular basis. I've suggested quarterly there. But it helps you to check progress. So if you're trying to work on something, it helps you to then, as an individual, really think about how are you feeling about it? Is it getting better or is it not? It might be then you want to change your priority and work on something else. It's also a really, really great tool if you're thinking about a new role. So Gabrielle, was it you that was thinking about, oh no, it was Juliet. You look at you can do this for your current job, but you could do it for a new role that you're thinking about, so that you can see the difference and the gaps that you've got, so that you know what to work on in order to move towards that new role. So hopefully what you've got there is a basis of a tool that can help you as an individual to assess your own performance, as a manager to help and support your team members, because if they choose their own skill set and you choose the skill set and the scores, it allows you to have a great conversation of where those variances are. Let me give you an example. So I've done an example here for a project manager. I've picked out 8 skills that are important for a project manager. It doesn't mean that all project managers have these same skill sets. We're well aware that project managers across the IT industry, that it's what's in a name, and they're doing lots of different things, might even be delivery manager. But so as an example, you might be a project manager, but you might not have any budget responsibility. So you wouldn't have focused in and prioritized budget management as one of the 8 skills. You might have picked something else. So in this example, I've got the 8 skills, I've scored them, and we've got stakeholder management and governance and compliance as the 2 lowest scores. So those are the ones to work on and have a conversation that says, what is it that got me to score it at that level? And what could I do to help increase my scores? Is it something to work on myself? Is it some support that I might need from other people? So really thinking about those different opportunities. And this here might be a great example where a conversation between manager and team member could be really helpful to come up with ideas. Or it might be that somebody scores themselves really low and the manager might score themselves much higher. So it might be a motivational boost that actually they're not quite as bad as they think they are. So let's pick one. Governance and compliance then. Are you new into the organisation? You don't really understand the processes and procedures for project management. Are you doing a finance project and the financial compliance is new to you? Is it that there isn't the clarity, or you're not understanding the processes and procedures that are there? There's lots of different reasons as to why somebody could score themselves, but really drilling down and understanding to help really focus in on the objective or goal to work on, which could be to improve knowledge, get some support to help, or even write a new procedure because actually you're not feeling very confident because there isn't something that exists currently around that. Lots of different things going on around that area. So that's a lot of me talking and trying to explain. So has anybody got any questions from a point of view of clarification of the technique, or any specific questions of their own experiences, perhaps more around appraisals or help and support, where how this might help, or something that I haven't picked up as far as individuals and issues that they might have seen that might be useful to discuss.
Juliet, do you want to?
Yeah, thanks, Chris, for that presentation. You mentioned something about helping your manager. So
Yeah.
I just wondered if you would throw more light around that, because if I would share my personal experience, I feel like I currently do not get enough support, if I'm using the right word. Something very closely to what you mentioned about managers, your manager sometimes always canceling your one-to-ones and things like that. That is very closely related to my current situation, and I'm very much interested in knowing how or what I can do to support so that I can get the best out of these sessions with my manager. Are you able to just throw more light around how I can, or what I can do to support my manager in this regard?
So I think it's about trying different things and seeing what works. So when you do have a one-to-one, are you talking about work, or are you talking about and priorities or issues, or are you talking about the things to do with your development? So one of the examples I gave you was, if you send an email beforehand with the updates of the things that you think are important to them, then that might save a little bit of time if you're getting less time in your one-to-one meetings. It could be sending information to say you'd really like some feedback or some to discuss a particular area of concern for you. So is it that and perhaps it's just a conversation with them to understand what pressures they're under and how you can best help. So it's very hard to be generic to say this is what's right, because it's down to the personality of that manager, it's down to the different pressures and understanding. You could interpret it as, well, it's good news that they're prioritizing other things so that they haven't got an issue with you, but it means you're not having that chance to have that conversation. So finding some way of being able to have that conversation and expressing a concern that you're not getting some support and that you'd really like some support in this particular area might actually push you up the priority list. But I think there isn't a one size fits all answer there. I think it's about trying different things. Maybe a mentor or a coach might be the thing for you to just work with you and going through the different things and trying something, and then having another conversation with your mentor to then say what to try next. Because I suspect you're in a position where it isn't a flick of a switch that it's just suddenly going to get solved there. Does that help or not?
It does, absolutely. Thanks for that. Thank you.
What I was going to suggest is quite similar to what Chris said, is your manager might not realise that it's an important thing to you. Like, they might think, it's one of those things they're making you do, and actually it's in everyone's best interest if we just both crack on with our jobs. So similar to what Chris was saying, one way to kind of emphasize the importance, I guess, is make sure that meeting has some kind of structure or agenda. So before they've had a chance to cancel the meeting, send them an agenda for the meeting to say, these are the discussion points. And at least then if you don't have the meeting, they can tackle some of them. Or over time, you can build up this almost document of evidence to say, these are the things that I have been asking for help with, and you're not providing that. It might just bring it into context then that actually it's a process that you want to happen, not just an obligation that they have as a manager to do.
Thanks, Kevin. That's helpful. Thank you.
Another thing I was going to suggest as well is try and understand, as Christine said, the pressures they're under. But is there actually going to be a better time of day or a better time within the week or the month that's going to work for them? It's probably not a good idea to have these meetings just before a major steering group or something like that. But are they actually going to be less likely to be called away on a Friday afternoon or something like that? It's just trying to understand their pattern and what might work for them as well.
Thanks, Susan.
So give some of those ideas a go and just evolve and just hopefully after you've tried a few different things, you'll find something that works.
Absolutely, I will. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else got any questions? Any comments on the assessment tool, whether they think that might help them or their team members?
Yeah, I definitely think the assessment part will help. With different roles, I assume the skills that you can go against, i.e. are quite generic. But how do you think you would manage the conversations where you think the skill is maybe at one level, either higher or lower than what obviously the team member has said?
I think, I mean, how do you have the conversations to start off with? So you're talking quite generically to start off with. What the tool has done is helped you to home in of, here's where we've got a variance. Let's have a little bit of a conversation around why you think you're only a 4 and I think you're a 6. And it might be, some of it could be memory of particular examples. Well, I'm thinking of this particular time where this worked out really well, or this one didn't go quite as well. And it might be that you've just got different examples. But what it's doing is opening up a conversation on something specific, rather than the generic, right, how are you doing as a project manager? So I always think the more that you can be specific and the more examples that you can use, the more helpful it is on both parties.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that.
And I suppose if somebody thinks that they're a lot better than you think they are, that's usually a sort of a scale and context. So they might be really good at reporting, for example, on the context that they're in, but that wouldn't work if they were doing a much more complex project, but they can't see that. So it's often, I found it useful to have examples of, well, this is this person is sort of, I think, working at a level 8 or whatever, because they're doing this complex a job. Can you see the difference between what you're doing and what they're doing? Probably put it a bit kinder than that, but yeah, it's just trying to get them to see different contexts.
Yeah, I think that's a really good,
almost.
Yeah, good point. And the complexity is good. I think the other thing that how you could use this tool is, say it's planning. That's a real good one. What does planning mean? You could actually do, what are the 8 skills that make up a great planner? And you could drill down and break it down even further, so you can get to the point where the variance is, because you might agree on some things and not on other things.
Yeah, that's really good. Thank you.
Anything else before I move on? Oh, right, moving on then.
Just a quick one, Chris. When you're, as Sarah said, that list of skills were different for each job.
Yeah.
But who determines that list? Is it in your experience, and I think I know what the answer should be, but in your experience, is it lifted from the job spec and these are the things that somebody in doing that job needs to be good at, or is it a combination of that and some skills that were going to help you get to where you're next going that will be different from person to person?
So I would tend to do it on the current job, and I would encourage them to look at the job description in order to help them to prioritise. But I also would encourage people to speak to their boss around what do they think are the most important skills, because there again is a great question. Well, I think it's really important to do this. Well, I don't think that one's as quite as important as this. All we're doing here is opening up better conversations, because you're homing in the different areas. In general, I haven't found that there's been massive variety. I think most people generally agree on where they are, but it's that the key to the tool is more about raising your awareness and understanding of what's important and focusing in on something rather than I don't know what to do. So you really can't go wrong. Yes, if you get into the right, okay, we're going to use this as a general tool going forward, it might be you can formalize it in as these are the 8 skills that are right for this one. But what I've also found is that there's an interpretation of what that skill means behind there, and there's a slight difference. So particularly if somebody is I've seen people do planning and they'll put risk management with planning, whereas other people will keep it separate. So it's more of a personal tool, but you can formalize it and have a description with each to make sure that there is a consistency. Depends how you want to use it. Okay, I'm going to go on. This is more thinking of it as a manager. So as a manager, are you thinking about spreading the load? So you've got your own objectives, but are you cascading and splitting your own team your own objectives across everybody equally? So as an OKR, that absolutely you are. But if you're not using OKRs, then maybe that is something to look at to make sure there is a bit of a consistency, so that what you've then got is the team pulling in the same direction because you're all working on the same thing and you've got a common theme there. Might seem a little bit obvious, but it's not always been the case in my experience. From a motivation point of view, are you really thinking about the adapting what you're doing to each of the individual needs of the team members, recognizing different personality types, different levels of experience and knowledge? Are you really thinking about what is motivating them and getting them to do their best? And are you thinking about their development? Are you personalizing the development for each person? So there is a certain amount of stretch for each, but it'll be different for each people. And then I think one of the hardest things, particularly as a junior manager, are you judging everybody fairly? And the technique that I've got here to share with you is some advanced preparation, but really thinking about those skill sets. And this is something I've seen work really, really well, in that for each of the skill sets, actually sitting down and defining what it looks like. So what does good look like? What does overachieving look like? And what does developing look like? Now, I put 3 in there. I know appraisals are often 5, but I thought the slide was busy enough with just the 3 levels in it. But what I actually found when I did this, it was actually quite hard to differentiate between the different levels, and forcing yourself to actually describe it and look from the bottom of taking it. Well, and what I tended to do was define what good was, and then I went up to what was even better, and then I went down to what was less. It really helped to really think about what it was that I was looking for, what's the evidence, and it helped me to feel that I was being fairer with people and to be able to get those different levels. It was also helpful to share it with the team and for them to do their own assessment, so they knew what to expect and they knew the behaviours that they needed to do in order to be able to get themselves to good, overachieving, or excellent if you were going to go up to that next level. Any thoughts from anybody around that as to whether that's the type of thing that might help them as a junior manager or help them as an individual to be able to be a little bit clearer on those ratings that can be a little bit divisive sometimes? Is that new to anybody? Anybody think that might be something that could help them to just put that little bit of extra effort in at the beginning, so that when you're doing those assessments, there is a better clarity and fairness around all the team members. Clearly, it's more for when you've got lots of people doing the similar jobs. If you've got a team where they've got different jobs, then that's a little bit harder. But if you've got communities of people, then working with some of the other managers to be able to make sure that you're judging things fairly across the team and across the community, a project manager across the community of business analysts, that would be a useful tool.
It says, I know Charlotte says that way you can set expectations and it's clearer for all.
Yeah,
and then
absolutely.
Becky is asking, how do you work with someone when you think they sit lower than their perception?
Well, I think this tool really helps with that because you have defined what that level looks like, and you can then ask them for evidence of the description of the one above. And if they can't give you any evidence, then it helps in that description. It helps in that conversation. Sorry, that if you're saying you judge somebody's planning in that they're developing because they're lacking detail or clarity, and they think they're good, plans are clear and complete and followed, then you're homing in on the example of, well, this plan here, I didn't have the detail, or you only did the detail for the next fortnight, whereas actually it's helpful that you have it for the next month or the next 3 months, whatever your standard is, or you didn't have a forecast to the end of the project. So it helps you to home in on what it is that they need to work on to be able to get to that next level. Or if you've got it wrong, they can say, well, here's the example, this is what I've done, and you can have that conversation then. Any other questions before I think last one is finishing? So what I would say in summary, it's all about planning and preparation. It's very much like interviews. The more planning and preparation that you can put in up front, the easier this will be. I've pulled out the plan your career and not your current job because that is such a theme that I see across the conversations I have with people, and really encourage you to get a mentor or get a coach to support you with that added focus around this area or extra techniques to be able to help you. This is an ideal environment. Kevin's set up with so many different mentors and coaches, then you'd be daft not to pick one up to really help you to work through this, either as an individual or as a manager. Any questions anybody's got, or any specific examples that they'd like to raise before we finish?
I think there is a question coming through, but not arrived yet.
Okay, so while they're typing, then there's my contact details if anybody would like to get in touch and speak to me separately.
I'm also happy to talk to people separately. Or find me on the community, or I'll type my email address in as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So perhaps we just make it clear that both Susan and myself are qualified coaches that can help and support, and we both do mentoring as well into this network.
And please find me on LinkedIn as well. And so yeah, so the it's about struggling with the planning and prep when going into quarterlies, when it takes time away from the BAU. Any thoughts?
Well, what's important to you? Your career and your appraisals, or doing your job? I think that's more about a time management thing. That if you're doing all the BAU, part of BAU is also looking ahead. So where's the best time? Where's the quietest time in the day for you? If BAU is reactive, then yes, I can see that might be a little bit of an issue. But it's always good to try and build something in. I always encourage people to put it in their diary. It's a meeting for yourself, just to take time out. It's always good to take time out to just reflect. So yes, without understanding the issues and problems that you've got, it's a bit difficult to be able to give you very specific advice. But I'd suggest you put a bit of time in your diary and you try and stick to it, whether that is first thing in the day, end of day, Friday afternoons, hopefully where it's a bit quieter. Just try and find a little bit of time for yourself to answer some of those questions.
I'm having to pivot what I was going to say based on what the context Becky's just added, because I was going to suggest that if you know the structure of the quarterly, it shouldn't be a thing that you're preparing for just before it. It should be something you keep a log of throughout. So my MD, who I report directly into, started asking me to say, can you send me a report at the end of the week? And I was just like, not a chance in hell, because I can't retain all that information, and then I don't have time on Friday afternoon to sit down and tell you everything. And I've got to do it on Friday afternoon, because if anything happens Thursday afternoon or Friday morning, it's not going to end up in that report. So it's got to be done on this time when I'm busy. So what I said to her is, I will keep a shared document with certain categories in it that I will update as we go through the week. So I'm constantly adding stuff to that document, so that if on Friday afternoon I don't get around to finalising it, she's seen everything that's gone on that week, and she can live from there what she needs to report upwards to her boss. So if it's not you doing that, I'd suggest maybe you look at some kind of template you can give your teams and kind of ask them to fill that in throughout the quarter, so that when it comes to the review, that the data's already there and it's not you having to then go and find it all.
Yeah, good idea. Don't do it all in one. Do lots of little bits.
I think for me, when I sort of went round something similar, I think that the big realization for me was that doing these appraisals and managing the team is a very large part of my job. It is the BAU. And it's just trying to make that mind shift towards prioritizing that work, maybe taking the day out of the office or whatever to make it done. But it is very difficult when the BAU is all there demanding your attention. But it is your BAU. So it's the higher. If you see it as one of your top priorities, then you can just pull back a little bit of that effort and energy that goes into the stuff that's nattering you all the time, and then you'll have some left for that sort of longer term, more deeper, meaningful thinking.
Have we answered all the questions?
I think so. Any others?
Okay, well, if not, then thank you very much for joining us. I hope you found some of those techniques useful, and as we already said, do connect with myself and Susan, and we hope that you find it useful to give these techniques a go, and reach out and ask any questions, because both of us know how to use these techniques really well. Thanks very much, everybody.